band in Trinidad.
Yo!
Yeah. Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4.
God damn it!
Hey,
Bad
boy.
You know we crazy.
This is Burdie.
And this is Barney.
And this is the Burdie and Barney show, not the Cookies show.
Soon to be though. Soon to be. Don't worry. That's a separate podcast that we're going to have coming. Sponsors involved. Stay tuned.
How that going? You do any coaching yet, Barney? You're asking that every week. You tell me, you tell us you're coaching in Taiwan, but we only seeing.
Ways, boy. This will tackle my credibility now on my honesty. Listen.
No, well, I just say.
Despite the loaded question by Mr. Liebert, right? I am in Taiwan to coach. let me put it that way. However,
Not to learn to handle a toaster oven.
No, but while you're here, you can't just waste away. You have to do things. You have to expand your skill of expertise or your range of expertise. Sorry, and I'm a capable guy, so it's just another avenue. But seriously though, the pandemic here has reached a point where it's down to 20 to between 15 to 20 persons infected daily. So the rate is significantly down. That is in a country of 23.57 million people, which in any other part of the world would be celebrated. However, as I have found out since I've been here, the Taiwanese are very, very cautious, almost bordering on paranoid, as it relates to this pandemic. So the CECC head, which is the same as your CDC leader, has not dropped the level to level 2. Level 2 is the level it was for the last year before the spike, and that is the level that will allow team sports to take place, training in groups, that sort of thing. We were actually supposed to have our first physical practice session on Sunday gone, but on Friday evening, he sent back word that he would be pushing that back until the 26th. So we're hoping for this weekend to get the positive word and begin.
So you all have 20 infections a day, but you all still kind of tense. Okay, well,
we have.
I don't want to brag. I don't want to brag, but Rufina's doubles opened yesterday in Trinidad, so I think we're doing pretty
well, you can't brag because Taiwan has never locked down. Whilst Taiwan was dealing with the problem, Taiwan stopped. They had restrictions on certain things, team sports, dining in restaurants, cinemas, and gyms. But restaurants were always open. So while you are looking to boast about eating a doubles today or yesterday, I've been eating everything all the time. I just had to take it back home. That's the difference.
Can I ask where is Rufina's doubles in Taiwan? I could ask you that.
Let's move on to our next guest, Mr. Martin. Thanks for sharing your time with us.
Right.
This fella going nowhere quickly. Anywhere with intelligence.
Tonight
always try to pass for your first choice, children. Always try to pass for your first choice.
Tonight we have Hayden Martin, certified KNVB coaching instructor. KNVB means the Netherlands FA, but the letters sound grander, You don't find
Yeah. It sounds like of great importance. That's what it means. Of great importance.
Former St. Mary's College.
DSL, so it working for other people, so oh Lord.
Former St. Mary's College title winning coach that ran institution on Frederick Street.
Oh boy.
Since then, he's technical director at Fatima College, and we wish him well there. We wish him best of luck. Good to have you with us, Hayden.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So tonight we want to review the 2020 CONCACAF Gold Cup tournament. So we'd be glad you could come and help us out with that. Whether or not is glass half full or half empty, or if the measurements off altogether. Right?
Leave measurements alone. You leave that alone.
That like maths, close to maths.
Yeah, for you. Leave that alone.
Now, you might want to ask how we reviewing a tournament that's still going on. Well, that's because the Soca Warriors left fashionably early, if that's a thing. We were out in the group stage after draws with Mexico and Guatemala and a defeat to El Salvador. Now, you may say in terms of context that a draw with Mexico and Guatemala a lot better than a draw with the Bahamas and Puerto Rico, but I would leave that to the coaches. So, Hayden, what do you think? Glass half full or half empty?
Neither. Neither. Look, any team, especially a national team, there is a process involved, and it takes time to establish the team and to run the team, to establish the team. This is your squad, this is how we play. And then following that, you can have people who can no longer hold their place and new ones coming into play a similar role. I find that we neglect the process. And going to that Gold Cup, I think it was a toss of a coin. We may have gone on to the next round. We may not. As it turned out, we did not. And I feel because of one, we'll get into the reasons in a little while, having to change the guard at that stage. And to me, there was too little time to get things going again. Having a running any team, particularly a national team, takes time to establish that it is no longer about star players and a super coach. That to me, that is not what it is about. So honestly, I didn't see the game against Mexico. I saw some highlights, and credit to the coaching staff and to the team. They showed discipline to remain compact for as long as they could and repel Mexico and maybe launch the out counter, you know. But the thing about it, having done that, how do you now not be able to build on that? You know, as I think about it, if you come up with a strategy or a game plan to hold what you have done as the big team, then you can't be struggling to get a result against the others as it was. We got we didn't beat anybody, you know, and I think that was because when you look at the team play, and to me, I was not seeing even what I saw, although we got eliminated from the qualifiers, I was not even seeing that, you know. Not that the players can't play, they could play, but I was not seeing the sort of structure. I wasn't seeing, of course, there would always be things to fix. It was not perfect. Perfection is a thing that we have to sort after. But I just felt we just went, and to me, it was just an experience, you know. That's as honest as I could get. I wasn't
How would you compare the structure of the team under either coach? I mean, granted that Fennec would have had a lot longer to work on his team, of course,
yeah,
and has had to work on his, right? But you were saying that something was missing. You could give us some more information?
I found difficulty in assigning clear and defined roles. Well, I don't know some of those players. I don't know if they were on the squad before and will not get into play. But remember, we have seen a sort of a more or less fixed group coming through the qualifiers. And to tweak a little bit, to improve here, to improve there. And although some of the players are recognized, some of the players come in the qualifiers, but this is Marcus Joseph who came in.
Yeah.
Right, good little player. I think he's useful.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I wasn't seeing an out defensive player 6. I think Hackshaw, I didn't see the Mexico game. Hackshaw looked as if when he played him in front of the defense, it looked like there where he was playing. going a little high sometimes, but he looked too as if okay with some instructions he could have fulfilled that, but I wasn't seeing a clear six. I wasn't seeing anybody on top who was actually taking it and, you know, this side, that side, next side. It looked as if, to me, as if we were just playing a football game. I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
Mm. What's your take, Barney?
I think, as Hayden touched on, it would be difficult for any coach coming in the period of time that he came in to put 100% structure in place for the entire all 4 phases of the game, as we would say, right? I said this before. I thought that, you know, with the removal of Terry Fenwick, that Angus is the coach to be given the opportunity locally. I thought so. I endorsed that. However, I felt it would have been best for him to get that opportunity at the end of this tournament going forward, where he could put forward a plan on what he wants to do for the next year or 2 years, and the TTFA or the Normalization Committee, whoever is the governing party, could say, okay, this is the plan, these are the games we would play, and then, you know, we would look at what you are doing over that course. I thought that would have been a fair deal to him. Now, he may not agree with that. I mean, the Gold Cup comes with a certain level of prestige. There have only been so many coaches who have coached at a Gold Cup. So, you know, people look at things differently. This is how I would have, you know, looked at it. And let the existing staff tide over, well, minus Terry Fenwick, Derek King and Kelvin Jack. Let them act as interim over the course of this tournament while Angus steps in after and takes the reins from there and go forward. That said, in terms of the defensive structure, I do not believe, and I've said this to you already, Lasana, I do not believe that the Trinidad and Tobago team that played under Fenwick would have been in a position defensively, you know, in terms of the structure, be it as the same players, and be it that if we look at the statistics from the games that we played under him, that we only conceded 1 goal or 2 goals. That team, that structure that I saw, would not have gone into the Mexico game, for example, and gotten a result. And I say this without any doubt, simply because in the Mexico game, I saw where we sat on line 3, yes, we were compact and everything, but I also saw where we denied central penetration to force the ball wide, for them to try to cross, for us to deal with that. I saw something of a plan of how we want to defend against them. I have not seen that, and this is just critique from a coaching point of view. This has nothing to do with anything else. I did not see that in the games under Fenwick, where we had a plan, a realistic plan of how we wanted to win the game. So I saw improvements in that realm. But to me, the mission here, the first mission in Eve's appointment had to deal with stopping the bleeding. Stopping the bleeding. So when I say stopping the bleeding, I mean we went to play the US and we got 7. We played against the Bahamas, which is 201 out of 200 and the 201st out of 210 team, I believe. Yeah. And we were knocked out of the World Cup qualifiers from that. That has taken a lot of sheen off of Trinidad and Tobago's flag. And I think that was the first job there was to deal with that. This is how I look at it. People may disagree. So now going forward, if Eve is given the job, and honestly, I don't see a reason why over the next 2 weeks, unless next 2 years, or a year, or whatever stipulated period that they give that the job is available. I don't see, unless we get a coach who has a resume of having gone and done this time and time again at international level, which I don't think we are really going to get. I would like that. So I believe Eve should get the job in the short term, and I would like to then judge him on the things that Hayden spoke about there in terms of our system of play, the roles and functions of players, to see if this is the correct fit that we go forward with.
All right. Hayden, out of the games you saw, the El Salvador match, now a lot of debate about the tactics that to start the game, and then, well, the tactics for the second half to try to rescue the game after we fell behind. What did you see there? You know, in the first half, we were playing a back five. I believe we were a bit deeper, maybe not as deep as the Mexico game. That's right, Barney? Or was referring the same tactics? The same tactics.
No. From what I understand, that I saw the defending was on all three lines at different times on all three lines.
Okay.
Yeah, on all three lines.
All right. What did you think about first half versus second half, and so on in a game that you know, we needed to get something from? A draw would have been something, all the same. But
well, you see, the thing about it looked to me, I was still looking, what is our game? Okay, coming off the special, what I will call a special tactic for the first game, which, as Wayne say, was, yeah, listen, the last thing you want is to go and concede a ton of goals, you know, especially coming off of the lack of qualifying. So I was still looking to see what was our game. And it's there. I thought that we came forward pretty well. I like the look of particularly right side. This boy, is it Jones? Is he a Jones?
Alvin Jones.
Alvin Jones can come forward, you know. So I just thought that we needed to have a little more organization playing in their half going forward, and try and determine how we're going to we need to get some service into Marcus. I like Marcus. I think he, you know, try to get some service into Marcus, you know, to see if we could get something converted.
What are the qualities you think? Oh, we haven't had a number 9 really since Kenwin Jones. You think Marcus could take over the mantle and lead in the line? What qualities you saw in
yeah. I would well, you know, my reservation with Ryan. You know, so I think if
you make some point for it, and fans very happy tonight, by the way, but go ahead.
I want to ask questions. Yeah, I think some more playing time, and as Wayne said, all that is needed, and I wanna go back and touch on something that he said as well. All that we need time, because to me it's like starting over. It is like, and this is my concern, right? We cannot keep starting over. It makes no sense. You get to a point where you need to fix, and it goes wrong, and then we go right back. For instance, what is going to be the position if you have people out there now looking for a coach? I don't know where they're going to look for this coach. Looking for a coach for Trinidad and Tobago. If the powers that be decide, well, they get somebody, guys, back to square one again, and this is my concern.
Yeah.
Right? Choose your people. You put Coach Eve there. Okay, capable. You need to give him time and give him the support and what he needs. This thing where as soon as you falter, you know, that is not how it works. And I wanna agree with you on a point that you made, Wayne. And I raised this with a colleague with Dwayne actually some time ago. I don't know, and you said it, if the right decision was just to disband everything, because I don't feel that the team was necessarily playing badly. It was a bad team. That Bahamas game was totally mismanaged by both technical staff and players, but we know it goes that way sometimes, right? I think we went into that game feeling it had already been won because of who the opposition was, not knowing that is the most dangerous time, you know, because if you don't have a plan as to how you're going to destroy them, they probably have one as to how they're not going to be embarrassed, right? And we didn't negotiate that, and that threw us back way. But I felt that the team at that time had enough in it And I told the players too were looking forward to the Gold Cup, right? To just move forward. Okay, so with all the shenanigans and Coach Fenwick and whatever, he had to be replaced. Okay, he had to be replaced. But I think that that campaign could have continued and we would have been better. I don't know. Losing to Mexico may not have been the be-all and end-all for us if we were able to get points from the other two games, beat the other two teams, right? And I thought that the team where it was at that point when we exited the qualifiers could have given a good account of itself. I felt so, but disband that and start over again. You know, I think that we went into that. I didn't think it was a toss of a coin. We could have succeeded. As it turned out, we didn't.
Well, the biggest conundrum is always who to stick with.
Yeah, well, the question I want to ask, I don't know who it is making these decisions, who advises the decision makers, but for us to move forward in this thing, we need to have somebody there who is taking a sensible approach and who is strong enough to make the hard decisions, because you can't try everything in the court of public opinion. You can't go with the popular, what you think is the popular move all the time. Somebody needs to know, okay, so we've lost this, but look at the bigger picture. And I thought the bigger picture would have been, okay, so you don't want Fenwick with all the baggage and whatever happened, but as Wayne suggests, okay, if Derek King and them could have the support and the air of the players, go forward that momentum, right? And then after, if you figure, well, they're not good enough to take this to the next step, then we need to give somebody a 2 or 3 year contract and let them try and build something and maintain that. Even if they go, right, you still have a squad of national players that could do the job and that have the same idea as to what we're going to do. We can't keep changing. Makes no sense.
Building on that, Hayden, because you see the danger of the thing is now throwing Angus into the situation that he was thrown into, and he put up his hand for that. So let me not make it sound like if it was, somebody grabbed him and pelted him. He put his hand up for that. But I am looking at it from what is best for the country. Putting him and he putting himself in that situation now leaves it open to the same group of people who are not sure what is the measuring stick they're using, what is the expertise they're using, to say, you know what, that wasn't good enough. And then try to bring in somebody else. Whereas if it had extended with the Derek King and Jack being caretaker managers until the end of the tournament,
Which is what is normally done. Which is what is normally done.
Yeah, this time that this tournament took place, that group and Eve, and when I say that group, the decision makers and Eve could have sat down and said, okay, this, Eve could have presented his plan for 2 years going forward, whatever, whoever is however you go through your process, you would have had a plan going forward of what you want to see, the metrics that you're going to use to measure, all of those things. So now you come in after the tournament, you take up the reins, you do the thing as you see it fit with the blessing of that group, and we measure as we go along. And then 2 years down the road, we say, yes, you know what, we're in a better position, this is the man, whatever thing. Or you say, you know what, he's lacking in some areas, we may have to look again, but we have moved our group from point A to point B that somebody could come in and go forward with. It would have been better for Trinidad and Tobago all together, for the coach as well, because he would have been operating in an environment where he is being proactive, as opposed to how I saw it, where he had to be reactive and had to deal with things that he what was the correct word here? Things that he came into a situation and adopted. So he would have had to adjust those things going forward. I just think it would have been better, but it is what it is. And based on what I saw there, based on what I saw in the tournament, as I've said, and I have no problem saying, I have seen enough in a structural defense situation where we could say, listen, and people may have different views on Eve. I see Eve as a pragmatic coach, right? And maybe is that sort of pragmatism we need in this period going forward. So we've gone through a process that was not perfect, but we've come out on the other end of it. And the decision, as you touched on, is who is going to be the candidates that we're going to look at in this situation. As I told Lasana in a previous conversation, no matter who was selected for this job, because I do not believe that we are going to get the Pep Guardiolas of the world applying for this job. Whoever we get, the jury was always going to be out until the person was actually in the seat doing the job.
Well,
go ahead. No, I was saying, and it comes down to the question that I'm asking, who is the person or the people that are in the position to make a sensible decision concerning where our football is going? To know, okay, we go to this tournament, don't expect, to win. Just be decent because we build it. Who makes those decisions? Who are advising these people on that? And unless that is fixed, because again, just like with the under 15 and the youth coaches, this is something that, this is the MO. They put you, it have who didn't want you in the first place. The minute you falter, you're gone. New man, you're on a probation too.
Yeah.
The minute you lose a game, you feel you shouldn't lose, you're gone. And somebody needs to have a roadmap as to what is required to take our football forward and who is the person or the people that will be charged with such, and give them that opportunity and stop treating the thing as, as I say, star players and super coaches. If you cannot do it, well, you go get somebody else. It don't work like that.
Well,
it does not work like that.
To be fair, I think based on our last couple of coaches, well, first of all, I think a 2-year term is enough, I feel, to see what you have. I say that because Dennis Lawrence, for instance, Dennis Lawrence got the job in January 2017 and lost the job in December 2019. So that was just shy of 3 years. And I think well within that 3-year period, I think we might have realized that this is not working out, right? That is him coming in. Fennick from 2020 actually had close to 2 years himself. Although, of course, they would not play any games there. He had, let's say, a year and a half or 18 months or something like that. And the next cycle we have, the the Nations League, starts in March 2022. And it runs until the following year. Although, to be fair, I don't know if we'll get to the final round, we haven't gotten to the final round the first time. But in any case, I figure that if the new coach, whoever it is, of course, we know Eve's name and we don't know who else might apply. I figure if they get a job leading into that tournament, I think that would probably be a fair assessment. So they have the months for hopefully friendly games. Then they have the tournament running. We now in the second tier, the thing, So I think our next coach should be looking at 2021 to, very early 2023. What do you think, Barney? What that sound?
I am in agreement. And you see, the good thing about the thing, and I'm saying this good very cautiously, is that we no longer in tier 1 of the Nations League or whatever is however they classify the groups. We no longer there.
Yeah.
Right. So we're no longer in the top tier. We are in a tier where really and truly we're supposed to come back out of that. Right? And it's an opportunity for the new coach. And let us say it is Eve, it's an opportunity for him to build and have a squad that is exposed to these games, a continuation of to build on what he just did or our experiences in the Gold Cup, to build on that and to go forward. And we should be, and again, Hayden pointed to, we don't know who are the people looking at it, so we don't know their level of expertise in watching at these things, but you should be able to discern growth over that period in certain areas. You should see that in the coach, you should see that in the team. And it would give an easy indicator of this is the man to lead us into the next World Cup campaign, or this man is not doing the job. Right? And so they are clear, or there should be clear demarcation points there where we could assess and go forward with the coach or make a determination. So it works out beautifully in that way. It is up to us, and when I say us, these decision makers, it is up to them to understand what it is they should be looking for and to judge on that way.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do. And that is the problem.
I would like to point out that I am in Taiwan safe and sound. You all too will not drag me into that about people, what people know about people.
So I don't know. Well, they're not looking so.
But by the way, before you say anything, Hayden, let me tell you who likely to be in our group, right? The next assignment for us, looking at the rankings for the Nation League, we're going to avoid Haiti, Guatemala, and Antigua. They can't be in our group in the Nations League, right? So what we left with, worst case.
I think Guatemala is.
No, but they can't, because of the ranking, they cannot be in the same group with us.
Yeah, they're the same tier, but they're not in the same
group. Okay, the group. Okay, right. Yeah.
Right?
Okay, I understand. Yeah.
The teams that could be in our group, probably worst case, would be Nicaragua, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Cuba. That'll probably be the most difficult group we could get. The best case to me would be Barbados, Montserrat, and the Bahamas. In either of those two situations there.
Bahamas again, boy.
The Bahamas and Montserrat again.
Only the fear Bahamas, boy.
So these are the kind of position that we now ranked with Hayden, and we are now, we cast it out.
And that is sad. That is sad.
It is sad, but it's sad, but it's the reality.
It's the reality.
I was telling somebody yesterday, a guy who, he's a Trinidadian, he's a supporter, but he's not really deep into the football. So he was asking me questions. And he was asking me, how come Jamaica qualified and we can't qualify? And I said, listen, you can't look at the Joneses. We're not in any position to look at the Joneses right now. We need to fix our issue home here. We can't want to drink champagne when we can't even put a cup of tea every morning on the table. So we have to fix our issues here and see about getting our issues correct before we then start to measure ourselves against the bigger boys. We are where we are because we deserve to be where we are right now. This is Trinidad and Tobago's football. Sorry to say, but it's the reality of the thing. Do we have good enough players to get out of this? Certainly we do. But we have wasted wasted the opportunity since what Stephen Hart did in 2014, 2015. We have wasted the opportunity to build on that going forward, and this is where we are. So now, as sad as it is the reality, and we have to work from here to get out. Otherwise, as we were talking before the show, this downward slide is going to start, is going to continue, and we will head further down the barrel.
Well, Hayden, if I could ask you, now you've seen essentially two pools of players, let's say, over the year, over this year between Fenwick and Angus's team, right? What do you think is the type of play, the style of football that you think suits Trinidad right now, the current era of Trinidad and Tobago football? We go on long past the Kai Soka era and so on. What is our football now?
Well, here's the thing. To me, I find the game more or less universal now.
Okay.
Right? The difference you will find is that how they negotiate the 94 minutes in a particular match. But playing out of the back, late penetration, defending deep, counter attack, all of these things to me appear to be standard. Almost every team playing the same thing. How they display it over the period of the game, that would differ. Right? So to say, well, our style is, I mean, playing it long? What is playing it? Sometimes teams play it long.
But yeah, isn't there still like a Latin style versus
that to me, that was something in the past where you had
a fast up tempo versus a ball possession type team?
No. To me, I think that maybe 20, 25 years ago, there was a distinct pattern and it was based on a sort of geographic, spread, what you get in Scandinavia going right down to South America. But I think all the teams now, everybody trying to play possession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what we've seen over the years from a tactical point of view is that the game has become less of the where's your boy from Argentina? The Riquelme. It has become less of the Riquelme and more of the athletic, powerful player. So you've gone away from a man who organizes your attack, so to speak, in a traditional 10 position to where pressing and counter pressing is your 10 and that sort of thing. So the game has gotten quicker, and it's less. Everybody now plays in your half more or less when they have the ball, or as in the situation when you are a small nation playing against a big boy like Trinidad against Mexico, you defend deep and try to play on the counter. So the game has more or less evened out as far as styles go. What I will say though, what I will forever see as Trinidad and Tobago is, if we want to say style, Trinidad and Tobago has something unique to a number of the countries in our region in that, we had, and I've spoken about how this is being destroyed. We had players who could break down their opponent 1v1. We always had dribblers. So no matter how we play, if we get the ball to a man in a wide area, he could get past his man, and that now encourages us to go forward. It allows for our lack of clinical ball possession and breaking of lines that we traditionally have not mastered, right? So it allowed for that deficiency. But now we've driven dribblers out of the game because everybody's a passer now from the academy settings. And so now our game and what I think you were touching on, Lasana, in terms of our style and Kai Soka, which Gali would have relied on then, we no longer have that. So it becomes even more difficult for a coach to get us up the pitch. If you understand what I'm saying, we lack the imagination, that dribbler, we don't have it. We don't have it in our ranks again. So that's where I see, if you're talking about style, where we have gone away from what may have traditionally been our game. But to me, everybody's game is on the same, how everybody tries to play is basically the same now.
Well,
well, looking at the games, you wouldn't at least say that we're decent in getting up the pitch.
If I wouldn't say that, when we try to get up the pitch, so like second half against El Salvador and the Guatemala game for the first half for the first 55 to 60 minutes until we ran out of legs, when we decided that we wanted to go up the pitch, of course, we looked good. We have Rian Moore as our outlet. We have players who could do it. But I will temper this against Guatemala and El Salvador and not the big boys of our confederation. What I'm saying is, in the past, we had players who, no matter if it's a Mexico or a Costa Rica, although Costa Rica owns us, but a Mexico or Costa Rica or USA, we could break them down 1v1. We could. Now, when I think about our team, Jovan Jones, to me, might be one of our better dribblers, but Jovan Jones hasn't shown me over the course of the last year, before getting injured, that he is willing to go past people again. So that's what I'm talking about in that aspect with our traditional, and I using that loosely, but our style.
You think too that now, I mean, you're talking about 1v1s, that is a rare event. You would say so? Now in the modern game, that 1v1 is a rare event.
It is rare if you play pass. But even if you look at the top level with Man City and these teams, you would see with teams overload, overload and create that situation that they want to create a 1v1 in. Yeah. Football has become a young, so I don't know if it always was, but football has become chess, where if I want to hurt you here, I am not playing here, I am playing elsewhere, and then I try to hurt you here. That's it. So 1v1 teams now don't want 1v1s. So that's why you have wingers and wingbacks doubling back to defend. But if I want to create that situation, I have to work fit. And this is where I think this is where we need to get back to in our attacking sense. I saw enough in the El Salvador second half and the Guatemala first half to suggest that if we really want to do this, we have some of the pieces to do it. But I still think we lack that, we lack, and this is coming, this speaks to development again. We lack players who know how to dribble their man or go past their man, even use a wall pass to get past their man. We lack players with that understanding.
Well, just changing gears a bit. Well, thankfully we have, by the way, visual right now, so people could tell when Barney say that he's still a young fella. He can't get away with that anymore. Maybe earlier anybody and Barney, sure, he might have got away with that, but not anymore. But we are joined now because we switching gears. We on from the Gold Cup and we're looking towards the Olympics. So we have with us tonight 4-time Olympic medalist, a living icon, I would say, Atto Boldon. Nobody's perfect. He went to Fatima College. You have a lot of Fatima people.
The blasphemy start already, yes? I ain't doing 10 seconds, boy.
Atto, this didn't start with you, this going on. The fella feels threatened, especially today when there's such royalty from Fatima on board now. Because he's surrounded on all sides, so he feels threatened. Don't worry about it.
I said SOS for Shaka, boy. I don't know what going on.
I realize that.
But Atto, as we speaking about local and the style and so on, right? You are a coach, of course. Is it different dealing with Trinidad athletes as opposed to American or from other parts of the world in terms of getting them to follow instructions and to take stuff on board?
No, that hasn't been my experience. But there is something to be said for athletes that are very hungry. And I know that I will be showing my age now by saying that there was a hunger that existed in the TTO athlete a generation ago. I'm not sure if we're seeing it now. And I listened to you all talk about the World Cup, the Gold Cup progress or lack thereof, and I realized that some of it is that these kids don't have the same kind of hunger we have. And if that makes me feel sound a little older, that's okay.
Yeah. What do we attribute that to? I know in football we speak about the development going backwards because kids just don't play as much anymore as they do in the past. But when you speak about something like hunger, I mean, how do we even address that? Where does that come from?
I don't know. I wish I had the answers, but I know that you can look at And this is not just track and field. If you look across the board in sport, I remember getting off of that plane from Bahrain, and your same partner Shaka said, "Okay, look at what we've accomplished with not that much. Let this be kind of the watershed moment. Let this be the day that we say Trinidad and Tobago football changed on this day." And I always think back to that. That's 16 years ago, and look at where we are now. So it definitely needs some analyzing as to why we always seem to accomplish one thing and then we can never get back there. And on the track and field side, I can tell you how it shows up. It shows up with people who maybe get one individual medal and then that's it. They literally, their entire career is defined by that one thing. And it's like, wait a minute, we don't have that with other countries. So yeah, it's something I wish somebody would explore. I wish I had the time.
Mm-hmm. And you have Brianna Williams, of course, not a Trinidadian, unfortunately, but we wouldn't know that against you. All love in the region, all love in the region. But did she come to you with that burning hunger that you speak about, or was it something that developed over time and getting confidence and that kind of thing?
Remember when you're telling that story that my coaching thing started with Khalifa St. Forte, who then decided she didn't want to be in camp with Brianna. So you're only like to tell the story. Tell the story properly, Mr. Journalist. Tell the story properly. My coaching started with a Trinidad and Tobago athlete that you all had never heard from. I took her to World Juniors, World Youth. She medaled in both. She has a world championship
in the story.
She has a world championship bronze, the only relay medal that we have in the 4x1, and then things seem to unravel. But to answer your question, you know it very early when you're dealing with young athletes. And Brianna is by no means perfect, but I saw first of all her pain tolerance, and secondly her willingness to commit to what it takes. Because everybody, you see this. Everybody talk, yeah, Olympics, and when the jamming really starts, and when you really have to be called on to give that last iota of what you have left in practice, a lot of them can't handle it, but Brianna could. And I saw from a very young age that if she could handle what I was throwing at her back then, that she would, that she could go all the way. And so far, she's doing a good job at it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We have a real international podcast tonight, by the way, because at 2 across in Tokyo are looking for the PPE. Where the PPE
Trust me, it's all over.
No,
it's all over.
Now we bring you in to get more of a feel for this glorious event, the Olympics. You know, you've been there as a player, a coach, and as a commentator, and it just as successful as a commentator, of course. But tell us about what makes the game so special.
When you talk about world sport, it doesn't get any bigger than this, obviously. I mean, I have been to the World Cup. I was at the World Cup in Germany. The World Cup is fantastic, but when you talk about inclusion, right, this is every country that gets to come to this, whether you're good in table tennis or track and field, or now surfing and BMX. And I can be as cynical as they come. Sometimes as cynical as you, Lasana. And
that's very tough.
Yeah, I know. That's a high bar to reach. But I was, in doing all the media for these for these Olympics, a lot of these guys are older guys, and they're like, oh, don't you think that it is, it's a real travesty that you guys are going to have this Olympics, and it's just this one big money grab, and there's no way you should be happy. And I go, I could see that point of view, but I also know that when 9/11 happened and I was living in the States, people kind of came back through sports return normal. And I mean, Lord knows we thought we'd be better than we are right now with COVID. But I think that if we can pull this off, I think it will represent a real turning of the corner, certainly in sports for a lot of people, because if you can put on the Olympics.
Yeah, sorry, I think we just lost it for a bit there.
We losing. You would think Japan have better Wi-Fi than this, boy.
Nah, the athletes
okay.
are big time.
It's not Japanese Wi-Fi is the problem. I guarantee you that.
Okay. Yes, no, you're saying that if they pull this off, it'll be.
I'm heard.
Yeah, it'll be something really special, I think, for sports.
And
No, go ahead.
Remember too that every time there's an Olympics, I was getting ready for London. Say, yeah, they're gonna have a crowd. You know, everybody's baby is gonna be born deformed because of these Zika mosquitoes. I didn't see a single mosquito in Rio. So because I've been here and kind of done that, I know that there's this tendency to make it worse than it is. And I have been here for 3 days now. Is everything perfect? No, but the games are going to go on. And I think as long as no really big name athletes test positive for coronavirus, I think the Olympics will happen in a more than normal fashion than people understand.
Okay. Now, I noticed in the Gold Cup this year, the Trinidad, the Caribbean teams haven't done as well. No Caribbean team won against any nation outside the Caribbean at the Gold Cup so far. We hope that Jamaica would be the first. And they're the only team getting to the next round, right? We know that in the Caribbean, sport is amateur almost entirely, right? So it's a lot harder, I think, for Caribbean athletes to get past this pandemic because governments don't have time for amateur business in a pandemic. Have you seen the impact, the effect of that in track and I think going into the Olympics too?
Even in Jamaica, where track and field is a religion, they had to really clamor and fight for their recreational facilities to get open again because they knew that the Olympics were probably going to happen. And then here they were not having any place to train. So I know that that's going to affect athletes from our region and certainly the TTO athletes. I mean, not all of them are based in the United States. So yeah, they had some real challenges. And usually that's a word that I kind of roll my eyes at. But in this case and in this last 12 months, it's a real thing.
All right, okay. And the experience, the occasion, the pressure, even without COVID, what is it like? Is it really about the guy the guy or girl that could hold the nerve type thing? Is that the most important thing at the Olympic Games because everybody is good? Is that what it is?
It's certainly a lot of that. But the truth is that, look, I could pull up all the events for you now and tell you there are 2 or 3 people who are going to be on the podium no matter what. So yes, you can make a great case for the psychology of it and holding your nerve and all that stuff. But the truth is that it's certainly in my sport, the talent is going to sort of rise to the top. And then maybe among the top 3 or 4. But this is, as Maya used to say, we're going to Kentucky Derby is not going to get in the gate. And this is the sport of thoroughbreds.
All right, fair enough.
Ato, let me ask you something now. The TTOC put out ambitious goal to have a certain number of medals by a certain time. Could you point to whether one that was realistic and two, if it was realistic, are we on the path to do that or why we are failing? I mean, it's a multifaceted question I ask you there, but I think you're capable. You ain't go CIC, so I think you're capable of answering it.
You just show your noose so your noose and they tell you put it around your own neck there. So go for it.
I feel that a sell weight out here.
Out already.
I feel like a sell you.
No. Hayden, I was just out of necessity. Let's not go there.
Out of necessity. All right.
I didn't have a problem with the initial. Fanfare and all that stuff because I felt like, look, if you get a half or a quarter of that, you will still be doing as well as the country has done it in its history. My problem with some of what has transpired is that you have people in Trinidad and Tobago who they know very well, as you said, Lasana, everything is done at a very amateur level sometimes. And you can't have pro goals with amateur planning. You can't have these lofty aspirations if you know very well that, is a 1972 Cortina type system you're running. It's like, come on, guys. So I didn't have a problem with the initial thing. I just felt like, who are y'all fooling where, Carifta results are bad, World Under 20 results are bad, World Under 18 results are bad, but where is this machine that's going to create these medals? So once I realized that it was a question of we either fooling ourselves or we don't want to hear the truth, then I just kind of shrug my shoulders at it. I'm not offended in any way, but I know very well what it takes to create Olympic medalists, and we haven't been doing it. We haven't been doing it for some time, and we've been kind of passing it off as, yeah, somehow it will work because it used to work back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And it's part of the reason why sport is looking like it is across the board right now in our country.
I was going to ask if you're talking about football there or track. I kind of lost.
Well, he tied it in well, by saying across the board, because I am all saying, but why this man? I asked this man about athletics. Why this man talking about football, boy?
But you notice how some of them have some common themes, because I was talking about track and field for the most part, because I was addressing specifically that question about the 20 goals or whatever it was, 10 goals by 20, whatever it was. And yeah, that's a great aspiration, but you can't then have some of the jokers that are running sports collectively in Trinidad and Tobago and then be surprised when we're gonna be scrunting for medals.
Yeah, well, world-class athletes, amateur administrators, that's the curse of the Caribbean, I think,
Yeah. We have been producing in spite of, not because of. I've been saying that all along. That holds for football. When people, and that's my pet peeve, when people talk about, we used to develop, we didn't develop anything. I don't care who you are, what you say. We didn't develop. The game helped develop people, and luckily things fall into place for us. But we have not done, and I'm a specimen, athletic specimen, but I really know nothing about.
We have visual now on the podcast, and we're delighted to have video. Go ahead, Barney.
I know nothing truly about athletics, and that might be a surprise to you all, but I see the common theme going across the board. I see it. So, we are where we are, and it blows my mind that John Public could be surprised too, because then it tells me that John Public only jumps onto these things at the Olympics and at the Gold Cup and at the World Cup, that they're not following along and seeing, but this guy time not getting any better. You know that they're peaking for certain events and you're looking at the times and that kind of thing, and you're not seeing it. So I don't know.
And that's why people vex with me, because they're like, Ato, but how you could say the team ain't get no medals, and man, like you saying that? And it's like, well, first of all, I didn't volunteer that information. Somebody specifically called me and said, Ato, we're doing a preview about the Olympic Games. This is kind of what you do for a living. Tell us how you think the team will do. And it's the same thing that I said 2 years ago at the World Championships. I remember having a conversation with, I believe it was Andre Batiste, and he was like, so how many medals do you think we get in here in Doha? I said, no, we don't have no medals to get. I said, we'd be lucky to make a final. And same thing, he was like, how are you going to say that? And of course, we didn't get any medals in Doha. And it's the same thing now. People are genuinely offended at me. It's about how you could say that. How a man like you saying that the team ain't going to win no medals. And I'm like, but this is what I do for a living. Not to mention that the other thing that bothers me about that is that, look, sports is about opinions. You see what I'm saying? Sports are about opinions. So the fact that you don't like my opinion, it's not an educated opinion. It's just maybe what I do for a living. Yeah, it is. Kishon is going into this meet third best in the world. Maybe he says this again. But you see, as you alluded to, Trinidad and Tobagonian people, memory short. You remember the last Olympics, how the press was going after that team? I remember it because they were crying to me in Rio, right? They had all kind of memes with skeletons waiting on a park bench talking about waiting for the Trinidad and Tobago team to win a medal. I forget that, I have never forgotten that. So these same people now who say, boy, how you gonna say that? It's like, wait a minute, as you said, you weren't paying attention for the last 4 years then. You weren't paying attention to the last World Championships 2 years ago when we came home with absolutely nothing. Because if you did, then you'd realize why we in real trouble, here in Tokyo.
Yeah. Now, in football, Ato, right? We've discussed and Barney did his Bible, let's say, in terms of how we could help develop young players and so on, certified coaches, development plans, so on. In track, what do we need to help get us back to, it's sad that we're talking about getting us to where we used to be, but I mean, how do we get more world-class athletes?
Look at the teams that beat us at Carifta. The two teams that beat us every year at Carifta, who? Jamaica and the Bahamas. Now, when I used to point out Jamaica, they say, well, Jamaica, they have a better system, correct. They have more people, correct. What about Bahamas now? Because Bahamas does not have the population we have. What the Bahamas figured out is that, look, we're not relying on our clubs something again, because that Jamaica don't have no clubs at that level. They know that all their talent is in the high school system. You have to develop your high school system. This is not rocket science. I am telling you, if you gave me the money, I would make the high school system so attractive that would be the thing that everybody would want to be. Kind of how Intercol was when we were growing up, but that was must-see TV, where it was a must-see event. That's how you have to make track and field, because right now, by depending on the clubs to do it, the clubs are not producing the way they used to in the past. So the other islands figured out, don't be relying on your clubs. Go into your high school system. If you have a strong high school system, chances are you are producing athletes. And if you guys think about it from a football perspective, when was our intercol system at its best? And look at the players that were coming out of that. And not just the generation from us, go back to our parents when it was really the cream of the crop. Yeah, that's when we had our best players. So the talent is in there, but they're getting caught up in other things, because high school championships at a track, it happens on like a Tuesday. Nobody, parents can't come, the stadium empty. But who wants to come and see that? Bahamas literally went and looked at Jamaica and said, okay, we can't do what Jamaica doing, but we could do our version of it. And Bahamas now trounces us regularly and repeatedly in Carifta and on the world stage with a quarter of our population. Explain that.
Okay, interesting. Interesting.
So
go ahead, Barney.
No, so I'm going to be Lasana here for a minute, as difficult as this is. So what stops us from doing that? What stops us from doing that, Ato? If as you said, you made it sound very, very simple. As you said,
we already have school sports. We already have school sports.
Hold on. I'm sure you heard the gentleman say that school sports is on a Tuesday. And therefore that takes away. Listen, come now. Follow along with be with us now. Be on the same level with us now. Sir.
What I say, I keep it up with the Fatima guys. But what I say is, if it's there already, it's just a tweak and something, right? It shouldn't be that difficult.
Well, okay. So have a little patience. We get into that. This is my question to the man. What stops us from making, as you said, those tweaks to get the thing where it's supposed to be? Because me not being a track person anymore.
Anymore.
And listening to this sounds fairly straightforward. So talk to me.
It sounds straightforward, but it requires sort of a change in the culture. The culture now is, you have high school sports, nobody don't really take it on. But the cream of the crop go to their clubs, and in the past, the clubs would always produce. And that is where you get a Darrell Brown, a Mark Burns, basically any name you could call, they came through that club system. We're not getting that anymore. So is it as simple as that? Yes or no? It's what it requires is some private sector intervention. As long as that championship is being run by the ministry or the sports company or who, then it's never going to rise to what it could be. What champs in Jamaica, which is the most successful high school championships in the world, what that has is private sector money. So they have an incentive every year to make that thing as big as it can be. What does the Bahamas have? The same thing. So until you have somebody who is, again, amateur versus professional, I want some professionals to come in and run it like an event, as opposed to doing what has always been done, which has clearly not worked. Listen, even if I am dead wrong and somebody pulls off a medal in Tokyo, it doesn't get any better from nowhere. Paris in 3 years, I can't speak for the other sports and that kind of got lost in the translation. I don't know about cycling or all these other sports. I'm talking track and field athletics. I don't. Who can you point to and say, this is somebody who is going to be a medalist for us in the future on the men's side? I don't know that we have that person. Certainly not in a young male sprinter. They're not there. We have Tyra Gittins who showed up now, but that can be a very competitive event. Can she possibly break our drought in the Olympic medals on the female side? I think she's probably a good bet too. But it seems like the pool has just dried up. It used to be that, yeah, I was there. We could see Daryl and Mark and them coming, and then you had Keston and you had Richard. Who is the next top male Trinidad and Tobago sprinter? Who is the next big top female Trinidad and Tobago sprinter? I don't know who it is. And that's the first time I've ever been able to say that. It's always been somebody in the horizon until now.
Lasana, you know, Atto said something there just now, and it resonated with me about private sector and if it remains as the government run anything, because it kind of reminded me of something. The government's part in sport at a youth level seems to be just to say that we give the children something to do, you know. Because again, I've retired from athletics a while now, so I'll stick to my football profile. When we look at the SSFL, for example, and all that we see wrong in the SSFL as it relates to development, and you know my pet peeve with boys as old as just short of 21, playing against boys as young as 14 and 15. When you point out the ills of that and how it affects development and what would be the best model, you get the pushback, well, they're in school, so they have to take part. Again, so it is just to give the children something to do, as opposed to, let us see if we could get John from this level to this next level. And it sounds like the same thing happens in athletics. So the private sector part, which I naively always thought that the government should be the one, you know, looking to get the best out of their athletes. I realize now that the private sector probably has to be the one, or somebody coming in and saying, because Atto also touches on the same point that Jason was making when I was reading Jason's bio and information, that amateurs are making decisions for me as a professional that are going to affect me as a professional. And that cannot be right when you think about it. So
some purpose. You know, but Atto, are there a lot of certified coaches though in track and field and so on locally, in terms of like handling kids and so on? That happens at least. Trinity TOC?
Yeah, somebody from World Athletics told me that we have more certified coaches per capita than anybody else in the world. The problem is not the coaching. That's not the problem. I think if you and I remember there was a time when the N3s was blaming the clubs, and the clubs were blaming the N3s. There's some sort of disconnect that is happening now where they can't get the kids to come and they can't get them to stay. The minute things get difficult, they're sure and go, I done with this.
Oh.
Sounds like footballer Hayden.
A lot of the thing with the track too and the happening in the schools itself, you know. There is a move away from the annual sports being, in fact, an athletic event or being a fun day.
That's right.
You know, I remember when I went across the CIC, I mean, coming out of Fatima, I wasn't as fast. And, you know, sports coming and, you know, the excitement and this house or this class have their sprinter or they back in there, and none of that. And, you know, and they want to know, well, who are the runners here? And you had none. It's the footballers, I mean, yeah, they're fast, but they're not the runners. You know, and because of that, you find that the thing got watered down, you know, to a fun day. So the schools are, and then with the same thing, because I remember, particularly CIC sports, this would be a big thing. This would be a big thing, right? You had some cycling, but if you had, you know, sponsorship. Yes, I remember they used to have a big banner by Memorial Park advertising the sports. And then lo and behold, they move it from the weekend. And it's not only during the week, but it's on Carnival Thursday. There's something to get out of the way. You know, as you're always saying, just something for the children to do. Just so you're supposed to have sports, so have sports. But it's not with the aim of perpetuating athletic ability in the schools at all.
But let's also take ownership of what we have not done right. And I can't speak for other sports, but I have seen it in my sport, and it is, I mean, yeah, every sport has the nepotism and the pettiness and the complete inability to think more than 5 minutes ahead of the present time. But I have literally seen where, I mean, Lasan, all must be tired of me playing this record. Where is the preparation for our relays? Because the truth is that a country like Bahamas and some of the other countries in the Caribbean, they don't always have to have the individual champions every year. If you have some depth, I mean, look, imagine that the Bahamas has won all these medals, not just individually, but in the relays, and we still waiting for our first one. That can't just be population. What it is that their federation committed to doing things a certain way. They saw that, look, we can't get away with what we were getting by with before. So I've been playing that record on the bow of the Titanic for, I mean, really since 2015 when that women's team won the 4x1. I am on the bow of the Titanic saying, iceberg ahead, iceberg ahead, iceberg ahead. And in typical fashion, they're like, oh God, what are you talking about? Come off the bow now, boy. You ain't see we sailing. And now it's Olympics time to go. But how you mean, what? No medals? I mean, no medal. I said, but I was telling you all for 6 years. I laid out specific. It was 3 of the 4 people on the women's team that live in Florida. Because after Boldon, I did it. Like, no, we ain't doing that.
You mean for those to start practicing from there?
I can't even tell you how many times that this person on that Japan men's team on the 4x1, they got second to Bolt and Jamaica at the last Olympics. And in fact, they got the stick about the same time with both. How does a team like Japan do that? Because they form a team and they build chemistry and they have 7 or 8 parts to the team, but you know who works with who, so that when you come to a situation where, okay, somebody injured or somebody ain't running well, you just adjust the parts and you keep going. We still feel like we could do it the way we've been doing it way back in the day, where you come to the meet and you start practicing. And they could, and trust me, they're going to try to use the example on the other side of the Olympics of, oh, it had pandemic. Long before there was a pandemic, there was a reluctance by the Federation of Trinidad and Tobago to get any kind of real practice done. So now that the relay teams have gone past being a threat to be on a podium, don't be surprised, because you had somebody who does this for a living who was telling you that. But everybody's a certified coach and everybody know better. So deal with consequences now.
Ato, is that a result of insufficient funding from the government, from the Ministry of Sport? That does not allow for you to let us say put your relay team together in a centralized area and let them work to become more efficient?
I can't blame the government for that. I remember having a conversation with one of the ex-ministers, and he asked me how much something like that would cost, and I said, we could do it for 100 grand easily. House everybody, fly everybody in, put them up for the week, whatever. And he was like, oh, 100 grand, you'll get that. But he's not minister anymore. The truth is that, no, it's not a money thing, because the truth is that when that team was Khalifa, Kellyanne, Samoy, and Michelle Liai, 3 of them were in Florida, and they would have gladly come down and done the camp. It just needed to have a little bit of a endorsement, approval from the actual federation, which they never got. So they never did it. And that team went from 3rd in the world, right? And stop me if this sounds like other things in our sport, in our sports. They went from 3rd years ago, and then the games, and now they're no longer a threat. And it's because that team was never really developed. We just is like, we're depending on, yeah, well, we got a medal this year, so, hopefully things will work out next year. That's not how sports works. And 2021, everybody is doing it, and in every country. And if we really love that them days done.
Yeah. All right. I hope you have your accreditation where you can see it, right? I want to ask you a question now. I want to make sure your accreditation now anybody can grab it. Right. Good. Keep it in your hand. Good. Keep that in your hand, right? This issue about the demonstration, the one demonstrations, we can't have soul caps and all these. Where you make is the IOC being a little bit tone deaf in terms of non-white athletes?
Yeah, I saw the cap thing and I thought that was a little ridiculous. I am not somebody who was on that bandwagon of changed the marijuana laws, but the cap thing that made me feel a little uneasy. I also feel like, look, you know what, IOC, you have all these people here to participate in your billion-trillion-dollar party. They shouldn't be sleeping on cardboard beds. You all are making too much money to have the story from that village. Everybody has said, hey, I thought you're sleeping on a cardboard bed. I said, no, I don't do the village, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It comes across as the performers who generate the money getting the least amount of money thrown back at them. I just have a real problem with that.
I thought that was a hoax. They genuinely keep it on. Okay, and the whole business about, I mean, up to the day they haven't really paid any homage to our Tommy Smith and so on with the salute and John Carlos. Is the IOC being deliberately slow in accepting the need really to recognize these athletes and what they're coming through, where they come from? Sorry.
Sometimes the IOC tries to be all things to all people. So on the one hand, they will have an ad now that says, hey, Tommy Smith, John Carlos, this has kind of always been the place where, the IOC is not, afraid to stand up and have our athletes, blah, 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 blah. But the truth is that, they have a rule here, which at first was all but prohibiting any kind of protest. They've since kind of softened on it a little bit, but sometimes they try to be all things to all people. They try to be this oh yes, all protests are welcome. But on the other hand, they don't really want nobody putting up they don't want nobody putting up no fist on no podium here, because it kind of ruffles feathers. I hope that all the athletes do exactly what they feel to do, especially post pandemic and where the world is now and what's going on with this British team and just what race relations are like worldwide. I think you're going to see a lot of it here, especially since nobody's in the stands.
Yeah, it could have the effect of saying don't loot.
Right.
All right. Anything else, Barney?
I really intrigued about this. Our athlete development and progression and that kind of thing. But I lobbying for Atto to come back when he has better Wi-Fi and that kind of thing, and have a whole program on this, because this is really interesting to me, because I am sitting here and I am seeing definite parallels. I mean, I always hear you talk about it, but I don't always take you on because you don't always make sense. Right? That's you, Lasana. But I've heard you in the past talk about the professionalism and the ability of our athletes, our footballers and whatever, and the administrators not being held to account. And me, in my silo, I had that as football. That's how I look at it. But Atto is talking here, and I said, but what the hell? Because I am seeing, if I close my eyes and don't know his Atto and listen to him, this person talking about football. But this is athletics. And then when I read Jasane's comments, just ain't talking about football, but that is cycling. And I'm sure now, I start in the field, I need to go and look at all the other sports, and I will see the same parallel. So this brings us to a central conversation, not so much about the sport, but the administration of the sport, the responsibility of the private sector, the responsibility of the government, of the governing bodies, and the government itself to ensure that we given our athletes a fair chance. We basically, I am sitting here and I'm saying to myself, but we short circuiting people. We are adding a 12-pound weight or a 20-pound weight to an athlete who has the same ability or even more ability than an athlete in the US or wherever at age 16 or 17. We dragging on them. We dragging on them. And finally,
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry? And
finally,
sorry,
go ahead.
You must digress, boy. And finally, Atto made a point there that I didn't consider, that we have athletes prove themselves at the highest level. You're world class. Boom, medal. And then after that is a struggle. And my mind goes to J. Hugh Gordon one time, because J. Hugh Gordon, when I saw J. Hugh Gordon in my pet event,
Running down your pet event.
When I saw J.U. Gordon, you try to besmirch my reputation, boy. Anyway, when I saw J.U. Gordon at that age, medaling, in his very first race, just falling outside the medals or something like that, in the 400-meter hurdles, which to me, running 400 meters in the first place is madness. Running it and jumping over things is certified madness. And I saw this young boy do this, not only do it at world level, but do it with a kind of easiness and grace. I say, well, look how we going and have medals for about 3 Olympics out of this boy. And then after that, it's a struggle just to see him back there. And you have to question now, the easy thing for us persons outside of the machinery of the thing is to blame the athlete. That's the easiest thing for us to do. The same thing with the footballers. Them fellas and them, this, that. But you had to look behind the scene. You had to peel back the layers and start to look at what's going on in the background. And whilst I thought it was football alone, I've seen it's everything now.
I could leave you guys with this short story. When we had a meet at my home track, right, where we had about 3 or 4 generation of athletes. So you had myself, Wendell Williams, Richard Thompson, his wife, right? So you have people literally from 92 come all the way up to Rio. And the meet was over, and we kind of linemen. We hadn't seen each other in a long time, post-pandemic and so on. And we started to tell stories about life on the road as an athlete coming up in track and field. And I was like, boy, this is the kind of thing that need a round table and several cameras. Because if you hear some of these stories, you realize that, as you said at the top, some of these athletes have succeeded in spite of the obstacles in their way and in spite of the administration, not because of them. And that sounds like a broken record, but when you listen to all of these athletes, mind you, in that conversation, you probably had about, it's about 7, 8 Olympic medals, because Richard had 3, I have 4, other people with some hardware, but the situation, the story is all the same. They're talking about
your story, Atto.
What's that?
Well, I'm waiting for your story.
No, trust me, when I write that story, I can't come back home, because the level of people that I want to just rip to shreds. You know what I'm saying? The level of people that I want to just rip to shreds, because they're still in the place, doing nothing, not helping the thing forward anymore. And yet it's like the tentacles and their roots are very, very deep into the ground, and they're not moving. And it's like it's just getting worse and worse and worse, and they're not moving. So it's difficult for somebody like me, because I literally have seen all of my peers in Canada, in the US, in London, literally everybody everybody who runs track and field is somebody who I came up with. Not that I necessarily want to run track and field, but I understand that other countries go, you know what? We're not going to be stuck with thinking and people from 50 years ago. We are going to move our sport in the direction of somebody who actually knows what's going on in the modern day version of this sport. Trinidad and Tobago has no desire to do that. Whoever was there before, let them stay there.
Well, there you go. If I could ask you, Ato, in terms of your legacy, having a stadium named after you, how cool is that? Because, I mean, if the madam were to name a room after me in this house here, nobody would want to go in that room, I can tell you. Yeah?
Well, I know which room it would be.
Let me tell you, look, the stadium is a very cool thing. Women kind of like when you have a building named after you. But there was no better time. There was no better time to be the person that stadium bears your name as when we beat the United States. Because people who I had played football with 20, 30 years before were calling me up and saying, wait a minute, we lost to Trinidad and Tobago and it was a stadium named after you? You have a stadium? So that I have to say that week of when we sent the US home from the World Cup, that was the best week to be part of the whole Boldon Stadium thing. That was fun.
After they tried to put shade on the stadium, and they lifted it.
Yeah. Well, we boy Shaka blast them, so that was fun too.
The juju is real.
Yeah.
So what to look forward to as you go now, Ato? What should we look forward to at the Olympics? What do you see? And not just Trinidad here, but just in the Olympics at all. What would interest us?
The women's 100 is going to be one of the best races ever.
Okay.
The women's 100 meter final, even without Sha'Carri Richardson, is going to be one of the best races ever. The women's 200 similar. 400 meter hurdles, men and women, might be the high point of the entire games, because in those events you have somebody who has broken the world record within a month. On the men's side, Carsten Warholm of Norway, and on the women's side, Sydney McLaughlin of the United States. They have broken the world record within a month, and now they are here with a big target on their backs, with people trying to get at them. In terms of a TTO perspective, I really feel like our best chances, if we are going to medal, are going to be men's 4x4 and men's javelin. Okay. And that's it. The javelin is pretty late in the program, and the 4x4 is the last event. So, if you feel like they're gonna prove me wrong and they're gonna come home with a medal, it's probably going to happen for athletics late in the program.
Is this going to be transformational for sport, with the women's race being the marquee event, you think? Now, huge endorsements, and usually they've always been the second tier, right? In a sense. I don't know if I just get myself in trouble there, but we had...
No.
You did.
Remember too, you had...
Trinidad and Tobago to know that this is Lasana saying this, not me. Thank you.
The truth is that, no, I don't know if it's necessarily transformational, but I know that the biggest megastar in the sport, Usain Bolt, has been around since 2008. So nobody was going to escape that shadow. Everybody in the sport was going to be in that shadow. Now that Bolt is not there, I couldn't be less interested in the men's 100. It's like, I think I know who's going to win. I think I know who's going to be on the podium. Trayvon Bromell from the United States, I think, is a favorite, and if not him, Ronnie Baker from the United States. But it's not as interesting a race, because the US versus Jamaica versus UK, there's so many people I think that could factor in that 100, and the 200, maybe the women's 200 even more so. The women's 200 has 5 different women who could win it. It could be Shirley Ann Fraser-Price. It could be Dina Asher-Smith. It could be Elaine Thompson-Herah. It could be Shawnee Miller-Weebo of the Bahamas. It could be Gabby Thomas of the United States, who just, by the way, ran the second fastest 200-meter time only to Flojo to win the US trial. So there's so much parity in that event that I won that maybe they threatened Flojo's before.
You think there could be a world record and is what you said?
I said maybe they can actually get close to Flojo. That fall, there's still some 3/10 away from it, but they will get closer. And quite frankly, it's exciting when you see somebody coming close to a record which nobody got close to anytime in recent memory.
Okay. All right. Well,
I want to ask Hayden. The same question basically. Hayden, after the Gold Cup, what you see as the path going forward for football in Trinidad and Tobago? Where do we go from here?
Well, sensible decisions have to be made by those in power as to what objectives we set in for the next 5 years. Right, including appointing somebody, giving them sufficient time. Okay, maybe as I said before, is like starting from scratch again in my books, but give them time to develop in a proper way so that we could take it from there going forward. So in the first instance, 2 to 3 years, second instance, 2 years, where do we expect to be in 5 years' time in terms of what is the state and the standard of the sport in the country? You know,
We are so bad at that. We never look 5 or 10 years in advance. I don't know why we are so bad at that, but that's how every other successful country in sport has to think. You can't just be thinking about tomorrow or next year. It's like, where is your talent being developed such that they can show up on a world stage and perform in 5, 10 years? I never see a plan in any sport that has that. Not a plan that makes any sense. I don't know why we like that.
you see, part of the problem is that people who start something more than likely would not be around when it bears fruit, and they are not comfortable with whoever is there now. Fine, I am not going to be there, but this is what we need to put in place. I don't need to take the credit. So they say, you know what?
There's a lot of truth in that.
If I can't be there, then So
a lot of truth in that. Everybody wants the credit. That's correct.
Yeah, I always say this. People, when you listen, everybody wants Trinidad and Tobago football to go forward, but they wanted to go forward their way, not the best way. So first thing, we're not collaborative at all. It's me. And this is how it had to be. And secondly, the point that Hayden is making, if I put this in place and it takes 7 years to develop, I mightn't be there 7 years down the road. The next man going to get the credit for this? Nah. Let me hold this in my back pocket because I want to be the smartest one. I want a monument to me. I don't want to see the football improving it or the sport improving is not satisfaction for me. It must be said that is Wayne Shepherd do it, or I ain't calling no names, or this one do it, or that one do it. It mustn't be. It mustn't be that Trinidad and Tobago went forward, and that's so myopic, boy. And it's sad.
You're thinking about a re-election, you see. So when you say what idea you have for me to be re-elected to my position, not about 5 years from now. My re-election is 2 years. Tell more to do with 2 years.
But you
too much truth on their feed. There's too much truth in this Zoom.
Yeah. You know the funny thing though. People and this now, and I've already consulted my legal department to shield me from any flack coming back from what I'm about to say or what I'm about to insinuate. We're saying that there's a re-election coming, so people want to make sure that they're again, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're saying these positions are basically voluntary. Mm-hmm. So why it is you fighting to be elected to a voluntary position? To me, right? It had to have something that's going on in the background.
Because there's position in that post. Everybody want to feel like there's too much chiefs, not enough Indians. Typical.
So
too much chiefs.
All they think is just the power that they want. I seeing something else more than power.
All I know is the TTF feel like a burning building, and there's no shortage of people looking to run in that building for some reason. So something going on inside that building. I don't know what it is.
And it's not just to be on TV saying he's a hero, man. It's other things going on there.
Something in that building.
But as I say, my legal team is probably My legal team, let me see, my legal team will be bedding down tonight in Trinidad.
Turn on the private chat.
Yeah, my legal
Private chat.
My legal team bedding down tonight in Trinidad. It's morning here, so I don't want to say too much without consulting them.
Yeah, good idea.
Well, we don't know where sport will be in 4 to 5 years. We know that the Burdie and the Barney should be back in 2 weeks, right? So I want to thank our guests. We had to get some CIC boys on next 2 weeks. Boy, oh gosh.
No, but you see, all they had to achieve something. That's the thing. Before we go, and I don't want to throw no more shade, but I can't help it. I can't, right? Hayden was talking about sports back in the day and, the shift and thing, and he's correct. But who CIC, who come into watch sports by CIC anyhow? Back in we day, is Atto wasn't even a big runner in Form 1 when I was leaving Fatima. It was Bob and them fellas and them. But we had that coming through. CIC had.
Anyhow, you know what? No, you know what? I'm not going to lower myself to that level.
You can't answer, son. There was nobody.
I'm not going to
Translation, didn't have nobody.
I'm not going to lower myself to the point of name dropping. We are bound by that.
Don't lower yourself. Don't lower yourself. Don't lower yourself. Yeah.
We are above that at St. Mary's College at the Grand Institution on Frederick Street.
Rightful place, Frederick Street.
So,
gosh.
Anyway,
gentlemen, it was nice. It was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good. Thanks a lot for coming on, Atto and Hayden, and kicking some knowledge. I hope your Wi-Fi, that plenty of things you can't watch movies properly across there, Atto.
Listen, I have my Apple TV and things like that. It's only always Zoom giving me problems. My connection is quite fine. This is a technologically advanced country.
Big man, we're struggling for funding here. Don't destroy me, so that. Work with us. Don't just throw me under the bus, so that.
Well, I mean, Barney crossing bootleg China. It's called Taiwan. It's really China.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
China, but it's not China. It's China light.
I will just. For those who are listening, views expressed here are not by the Trinidadians in Taipei. It's my honor. I am no party of this. All right, go ahead.
Anyway, guys, again, morning time, after I important things to do and so on too. Guys, thanks again for coming on. And,
all right, gents.
Hope you can have you all back.
Thanks for the time.